Hi, this is Stacy Marshall with Printwear magazine. I'm here with Joe Abreu from M&R Companies speaking about D2. Thanks for being here, Joe.
Glad to be here, Stacy.
Great. Joe, what are the key mechanical components you should ask when purchasing a D2 printer?
Well, usually it's those moving parts, those things that are going to wear out, and those things that can affect print quality. So in a digital machine, you've got a print carriage that moves back and forth on a rail.
Yep.
There's a motor that drives that. Then you've got a platen that's going to move forward and back, or maybe a gantry system that moves back and forth over the top of the platen.
Okay.
All of those components are subject to wear and tear. And they all affect the quality of your print and how accurate that print is going to be when it gets laid down on the surface.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that those are sturdy components. There's two types of motors that are usually involved in those systems. There's a stepper motor and there's a servo drive. The stepper motor has some pluses. It's less expensive. Servo drive tends to be more expensive, but far more accurate in those systems.
Okay.
So you want to ask about what is making those movements happen in the machine.
Okay.
And then the other thing, of course, is print heads.
Okay.
And those are really key to affecting the quality of the print. Are they industrial print heads?
Okay.
Are they designed to work with pigmented inks? Or are they being co-opted and used from another system and sort of made to work with textile inks? What's the warranty like on those print heads? Are they going to stand up to constant use, or are they going to have to be replaced after a certain period of time? Those are really important considerations.
Good deal. Can you explain a little bit about the various ink delivery systems in D2 and the pros and cons of each?
Sure. There's two basic systems. One is the cartridge-based system, which is sort of what everything started with.
Okay.
That's mainly because everybody in direct-to-garment the industry sort of started with an Epson printer base that co-opted and used those cartridges that the Epsons were notorious for using.
Okay.
Newer systems have come up with their own cartridge-based systems. The benefits of a cartridge-based system is that they're quick and easy to change.
Sure.
Pull a cartridge out, slap a cartridge in.
Okay.
Some of the downsides are that cartridges can be more expensive. And you also don't have as much control over how much of the ink inside a cartridge you're going to wind up using.
Okay.
The second method is to use a bulk feed system. And there's a couple different ways that companies implement that. There are hanging bag systems where the ink is just kept in a shaped foil bag with a nozzle, and you connect to that and it gravity feeds out of the bag and goes right into the system. Another method is to use a tank-based system where you have a quick and easy, open the tank, pour in the refill, close the lid, everything stays fine.
Okay.
So between those two systems, there's obvious benefits. When you can buy ink in bulk, you're going to use every drop of ink you buy for the most part. When you buy ink in a cartridge, sometimes you don't have control over that, how much of that ink gets used in the system.
Okay. Can you explain why white ink is so difficult in D2 printing, and how have machines evolved over time to accommodate for that?
Sure. The white ink uses, in general, in almost every case, white ink uses a titanium oxide particle for that white coloring, that pigment. The titanium oxide is heavier than most of the other color pigments.
Okay.
So it wants to settle in the bottom of a tank or a cartridge. It wants to settle in your ink lines, in the feeds between your storage and your print heads. And when it sits in your print heads, it likes to clump together and settle down in the bottom of your print head.
Right.
So white ink is problematic because of that. The other issue is that you have to get those particles through the nozzles in your print head. So some of the earlier systems, this was a real problem because those print heads weren't designed to have titanium oxide particles shoved through them.
Right.
And so it would wear those heads out very quickly, and you'd wind up having to replace heads. The newer, more industrial heads that are designed specifically for direct-to-garment printing, they're adapted to that problem.
Okay.
And they've found ways to get the ink through the nozzles effectively and to produce really good quality print.
Okay.
One of the ways that we've adapted to those problems is we found ways to recirculate the ink within the system.
Okay.
Some companies do a recirculation that pulls the ink in the tank and stirs it around. Some companies use a line fed system that pushes the ink through the line and moves all of the ink in the system, not just the ink that's in the cartridge or in the bulk ink tank. So those things they both have positives and minuses. But what we've seen is that by recirculating all of the ink in the entire system, you wind up with much less maintenance over the long term.
Yep, absolutely. Which features are most important for potential buyers to ask about for D2 printers?
Well, you got mechanical considerations, but then you also have operator considerations. Software is a really important factor when it comes to buying a DTG machine. If the software is difficult to use, if it's difficult to learn, that's going to slow down your usage and your operator's speed. If the software isn't very flexible, then you're going to have problems. So you want to look for software that is quick and easy to pick up and learn, that gives you plenty of flexibility in working with your designs, and software that is going to produce a quality print, because what's really crucial is the quality of the RIP software that you have with your machine. Some machines come with integrated packages of software where the RIP is designed or been redesigned to work with that machine. You're generally going to get good results with that setup. If you go aftermarket and buy a RIP and then bring that, you've got to do the interfacing yourself. And so you have to work out your color profiles. You have to work out what the settings are going to be to get the optimal quality print. You can skip over that step if you buy an integrated package. But the RIP is really crucial. Without a good RIP, it doesn't matter how good the hardware is.
All right. Is there anything else we should know about D2 equipment before purchasing?
When you buy a D2 machine, that direct-to-garment system requires maintenance. And whether it's performed on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis, you've got to stick to your maintenance schedules. And you've got to do what your manufacturer recommends. If you don't, that's where you're going to invite trouble. And trouble usually comes in the form of a blocked print head, which is one of the most expensive components on the machine. Once that print head's blocked, generally there's no return. There's no retrofit. You can't do anything to bring it back. So it means a complete replacement. Usually you're talking anywhere, depending on the machine, depending on the type of print head, it could be thousands of dollars per print head. So get the maintenance requirements, find out what's involved before you make your purchase price so that you know what's going to happen and what you're going to need to do as part of your regular schedule. Stick to them and don't let down on those things, because that's really what's going to extend your value in your press. And another thing that you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about maintenance, some machines use ink as a means to purge print heads. Other machines use flushing fluid. Other machines use different systems. Sometimes that can impact your overall costs to operate the machine. Sometimes it can be drastic. So you want to find out before you make your purchase, how much is it going to cost you to maintain your machine in ink costs? Because if you don't think about that now, you're going to be thinking about it a few months into your process when all of a sudden you realize you're spending a lot of money on ink that is not going down on shirts.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for being here today. It was great chatting with you.
Glad to talk with you.
For more videos, visit printwearmag.com.